Hey everybody, this is Marcel with IrnieracingNews, and recently I've been doing a little bit of studying and learning about what's going on with Israel, Palestine, the Gaza Strip. I think we all have a lot of learning to do, and a look back at history and stop jumping at virtual signaling like everyone did for Ukraine and everyone did for 9/11 and so on and so forth, and always jumping on one side as the victim and one side as the hero. Without understanding history, don't make any decisions. So I've been learning a few things from Romeo from Romania, and he's been sending me some information. I've been taking notes for this story. So I don't know. I just don't know, guys. I don't know the answers. I don't know all the information. I've just begun my studying. So let's study together. And these are not my opinions expressed. This is more like taking information in as I research, and I'm going to make my decision the more information I get, okay? So this is information I've gotten from Romeo. This is information I've gotten from searching the web and looking at different videos, but just a minimal effort. I really have not delved deep into it like I have on the Ukraine-USA proxy war, for the USA-Russia proxy war in Ukraine, etc. So, number one, guys, Israel political state has hated Palestine political state since before 1946, when the Jewish state was recognized by the UN under dubious circumstances. I attached the photo of the evolution of the states of Israel and Palestine since 1946. And as you can see, we zoom in here. Here is 1946. Pretty much the whole state was almost 95% was Palestine land, and the Jewish land is in the white there. And then 1 year later, under the UN plan, right, this is just following World War II, you have Israel land taking over 50% of it. You can see the Gaza Strip there and going down further south, and then the Palestine is all in the center and a little bit to the north. And then now 10 years after that, 1967, you can see Israel's occupation now created the Gaza Strip, completely blocked it off on the seaside there, and Palestine lost the north and has been literally, they suspected occupation from Israel. It's just whatever. They've lost their border. They keep shrinking and shrinking. And then we jump over to 2020, and you can see the Gaza Strip completely signaled out, a couple little down the side of Israel there, a couple blue areas of Palestine, and a little bit kind of totally divided out. So just as we learn, we can definitely see, the Palestine land has disappeared and Israel land is taking over that state area. Number two, Israel is systematically pinched by Hamas and Hezbollah. So Hamas is their deadly enemy. Number three, actor Zelensky, Ukraine, is Jewish, and he has the support of the Jewish cabal. Number four, political Jews hate Orthodox Russia, wishing to annihilate them. That's been happening more in sight since 2022, right? That's what we've been seeing with Ukraine war. Well, not the Ukraine war, the USA proxy war against Russia, or the Orthodox, one of the few. Number five, the Jewish Americans through the interposed multinational organization NATO, which is the USA-run NATO, support the pseudo country Ukraine. In reality, the Jewish Americans don't give a damn about anything related to Ukraine, not even on the lives of the people there. The Jewish Americans are sending as much as they can weapons to Ukraine. In the context of the West, they also admit in official reports of the European Union that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe. Number seven, thanks to corruption in Ukraine, weapons are sold quickly on the black market. Amid the sale of weapons on the black market, 1 million Ukrainians may have died at the front so far. And the country called Ukraine is fast moving towards no longer existing, at least in this form, or at least not having any males, heirs to survive. Number eight, weapons sold from the Ukraine on the international black market end up in the hands of Israelis' arch enemy, Hamas Palestine. And here's a news clipping. What was this? From September 10th, 2023, updated on the 16th. From Ukraine and Afghanistan to the Middle East, how U.S. arms ended up in Hamas's hands. Number 9, then comes 5,000 rockets fired at Israel in less than 2 hours. One Hamas ground attack on civilians in Israel. So they had 5,000 rockets supposedly fired at Israel in less than 2 hours. And a ground attack on civilians in Israel, I've repeated. Number 10, the world of intelligence on this planet is dismayed that Mossad was taken by surprise. And these ignorant of us wonder how Mossad hasn't noticed all along that at least 5,000 missiles plus all kinds of weapons are being introduced into Palestine. To the less knowledgeable, Palestine to Israel looks like the chicken yard of a wealthy man's household. That is, Mossad could not fail to know absolutely everything that was moving in Palestinian territory. I mean, I was just listening to the news today as I keep gathering information. Israel had one of the best defense systems on the planet, funded a lot with the USA in cooperation. As we've all known, they've been cooperating for a long time, NATO style. So how did they not know those 5,000 missiles existed from Ukraine, from the black market, in the hands, and that the attack was not coming? You start to think about attacks that happened in the past that were allowed to happen. What attacks where you might have known were coming? Like not just a false flag, but an attack you knew was coming and you let it happen so you could do your plan of action. What you needed that to happen so you like similar to a false flag, to instigate your own war of terror, control, power, new laws, new control measures, totalitarian states. Let me continue. To the less knowledgeable, Palestine looks like Israel's a chicken yard. So that is, Mossad could not fail to know absolutely everything that was moving in Palestinian territory. So number 11, Egyptian intelligence says Israel has been repeatedly warned that something big is coming upon them. And here's a news clipping I grabbed. Sorry, the quality is so low here, I can't even remember the date. Egypt intelligence official says Israel ignored repeated warnings of something big. Former top Israeli officers say failure to heed alerts only one aspect of massive intelligence and political blunders. Cairo official says Israel focused on West Bank instead of Gaza. Yeah, sure. So like we talked about, here's a really high quality defense system in Israel in collaboration with the USA, and they didn't know something was coming. They don't have any intelligence undercover everywhere, like spies. So number 12, so the healthiest conclusion is that Israel wanted to create a crisis with strong international emotion to justify its action to wipe out the rest of Palestine, what was left of Palestine from 1946. In the history of the last 80 years, there are several clear moments when the Jewish oligarchy, political controlled leaders gouged one eye to pluck out the two eyes of their opponent. So what Romeo is suggesting is you can gouge out one of your eyes, you can do an attack on yourself, you can hurt yourself, but then you can then gouge out both eyes of your opponent. That is, they sacrifice people to create a situation much more favorable to them. So a situation, the number one of how many Jews were murdered to justify the concept of the Holocaust. And we all know the numbers of the millions is up for a large debate. And some people don't want to debate it. How does 5 million people die? Is that physically possible? Why are the numbers skewed from different perspectives, right? And now, very important, Germans died that way, Polish died that way, Romanians died that way, Russians died that way. I mean, we know back in the Soviet, how many millions and millions of Soviets, the Bolsheviks, completely murdered, genocide, right? There's large numbers everywhere around. The concentration camps did not just have Jewish people only. So, but what Jewish people died? Maybe the Jewish cabal came out to a conclusion that they're not Jewish anymore. This is how Romeo explained it. The expired Jews came from ex-Soviet space: Poland, Republic of Moldova, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Germany. So the hot center of our debate is they are open to kill some of their ethnics in order to obtain high results in a certain goal, right? It's the gouging one eye to get your attack on the other two eyes, and you become the victor. Another example is Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, it was known the Japanese were coming. The U.S. let it happen. They left their ships just sitting there waiting for the attack because they needed to justify entering World War II, to justify the U.S. war machine. There is also very detailed biography for those who want to read about Pearl Harbor. Number 3, the demolition of America's Twin Towers on September 11th. Finding the world culprit. It's a bad joke. Osama bin Laden and his execution. In reality, the results of the Jewish oligarchy wanted to achieve with that horrific event was the establishment of draconian control over every person on the planet, at least when traveling by plane. Since then, even the conditions for opening a bank account in a small eastern country called Romania have changed dramatically, and banks have gained the right to ask you if you have health issues, etc., given that you keep your money in their bank and that bank uses it. Banks have received clear directives to gather information about the ordinary citizens. Another point that Romeo forgot to mention is, what about the Iraq attack? The Iraq War, not just Afghanistan, but where's the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? This is fact. They didn't have any. And the U.S. occupied Iraq, murdered civilians. There is footage of it. In fact, there is somebody in jail for many years for blowing that story wide open. Julian Assange is another example. People don't want you to know. So, the Mossad knew nothing, supposedly. He knew what you eat, what time you go to bed, but that's in Europe. There, on their border, with a bunch of undercover agents and spies, they knew nothing about the incoming attack. It is well known that it is easier to get your information from thousands of kilometers than from your own backyard. Haha, good one, Romeo. That's right, that's clear. Romanian saying, not everything that flies gets eaten. This means not everything that looks a certain way has to be like this. The Hamas attack was somehow tolerated, controlled, monitored, approved according to a Jewish plan. The Jews had to speed up the process of wiping out what was left of Palestine, sorry, I don't even know which way to say it, in 1947. The Jews had to secure conditions for the demolition of the Al-Aqsa to bring out the third temple under the open sky. How could the Arab world not know this? Now see and remember, the Holocaust, Pearl Harbor, the same strategy, 9/11, the Twin Towers, and now over 1,000 Israelis killed by Hamas while Mossad pretending was surprised. Here is video footage that I was sent privately, and we have the Orthodox Jews. They're wearing the hats and the suits and the beards, and you have the Israeli police trying to take down a Palestinian flag. So, for those that don't know, you might ask, well, why are the Orthodox Jews raising the Palestinian flags? And they are trying to get the Israeli police to leave that area, to leave the flag hanging. So this might confuse a lot of people. So with this video footage. Hundreds of Jews clashed with Israeli police who came to take Palestinian flags hung by Jews in the Mea Shearim neighborhood of Jerusalem. Jews threw stones at Israeli police to prevent them from lowering the flag.
It is not the difference of religions which is causing this conflict. The state of Israel does not represent all Jews and certainly does not represent the Jewish religion. According to Jewish religion, all of this is criminal. All of this is forbidden. Basics of Jewish belief teaches that Jews are in a divinely decreed exile. We are even forbidden to create a sovereignty for ourselves. But especially when this is by killing, stealing, oppressing an entire people. This is not only criminal according to international law. This is a true violation of Judaism. And still, those people who choose not to follow Judaism misuse that very same religion to justify all those crimes forbidden in Judaism. The root
MI6, Mossad, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, CIA, USA, Israel, Boko Haram. On the Rothschilds Bank, the war machine. Of course, again, for people, you got to understand the map. That's the Gaza Strip. Those people have been cut off of power, electricity, power, electricity, water, everything. Blackout, internet, news reporters, everybody, journalists can't even function. It has been, you don't know what's going on there besides murder, death. Here's a message from Romeo, and he sent me a video. The Middle East Eye journalist in Gaza has a message to the world. And Romeo says, and you are feeling like being ostracized as a journalist. Those people are not sure they will make it till dark or till morning. Let's take a quick look.
Hello world, this is Mahal Husseini, a journalist from the Gaza Strip, and I'm talking to you today as Israeli bombs are raining down on my city. This might be my last video as my phone battery is dying while we're facing an almost complete blackout after the Gaza Sol power plant has shut down. Israel has cut all fuel, electricity, food and water supplies into the blockaded Gaza Strip.
Okay, so I'm going to read it for you guys because you just can't reshare stuff on YouTube. I can't just do that without having like strikes and problems with YouTube. So the power plant has shut down. Israeli has cut all fuel, electricity, food, and water supplies into the bloated Gaza Strip, leaving over 2 million residents with no food supply or electricity supply in total darkness, almost completely cut off from the world. But as journalists, we're facing also immense challenges reporting on the ground and communicating with our colleagues. Journalists are staying connected to the internet. Everything and everyone can be targeted in Gaza. Every day of reporting might be our last of reporting. We have actually already lost at least 9 fellow journalists who have been covering the events on the ground or who were at their homes at the time of the attack. Dozens of media officials and journalists have been targeted. Dozens of media outlets in Gaza Strip have been targeted. And also the internet service has been disrupted after Israel targeted and bombed the 2 main telecommunication companies in the Gaza Strip. So while wiping out entire families and knocking down entire residential buildings, Israel is making sure that the victims do not have access to the internet and also are completely disconnected from the world. And to finish off, unfortunately, you are part of a spoiled nation who collapses these days. Unfortunately, my nation became spoiled after communism has fallen. And unfortunately, I am part of a spoiled nation who collapses these days. Compared with Palestinians, we are playing with toys. We don't have the slightest idea of how it is not to be sure to survive till dinner time. I myself, I take it as a lesson. And then Romeo linked me a video. Palestinian man sends a message to Israel that Palestinians will never surrender. Romeo continues, where are the human rights organizations? Where's UN to condemn a humanitarian murder? Where's the compassion big media, newspaper, and television should unconditionally display to everyone? Where are the ideologists, the philosophers, the social analysts, and so-called spiritual leaders? As a punishment for the worldwide silence, God will allow all the silent people to experience what Palestinians experience sooner or later, but rather sooner. Memorize this message. You'll remember it. It reminds me of just listening to 1984 when he's like, the book, we all have it memorized. So if all the books are removed, doesn't matter. Even if the last book is burned, thousands and thousands of people have it memorized. For those that don't know about 1984, you should take a listen to it. It's on YouTube and use audiobooks and stuff, or just read the book. So it's Goldstein's book. Goldstein's most significant contribution to the plot of the novel, as alleged author of the book, the theory and practice of oligarchical collectivism. The book contains the truth of the party as well as a model for how to overthrow them, as is quoted at the length of the book's chapter 2 of 1984.
The world has already turned its back on Palestinians, and in particular, Palestinians in Gaza.
And here is the former Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett. It's just crazy here. Let's listen.
And what about those Palestinians in hospital who are on life support, and babies and incubators whose life support and incubator will have to be turned off because the Israelis have cut the power to Gaza?
Are you seriously keep on asking me about Palestinian civilians? What's wrong with you? Have you not seen what happened? We're fighting Nazis. We don't target them. Now, the world can come and bring them anything they want. If you want to bring them electricity, I'm not going to feed electricity or water to my enemies. If anyone else wants, that's fine.
Wow, what a real character, this guy. I don't care about the civilians. Like, again, war, if we look at the history, Palestine's been occupied. They've lost their land since World War II, like pretty much 95% of it. But that aside, it's like, imagine Putin did this to Ukraine. Imagine like he bombed the civilian buildings. Like, we already know that Ukraine, on their offensive, their amazing offensive that they talked up for 2 years, was just some drone attacks on Russia, on civilian buildings that did nothing. A couple people were killed. And you didn't see Putin then level down the civilian cities. No, there's a frontline battle, and it started as a special military operation, as we all remember, but the USA refused to allow peace talks, and so on and so forth. So it turned into a full-on conflict that is now, people are literally, they're moving on to the next one, the next war machine. And guess who's investing right now? You got the US Congress and everybody in politics. They're investing in the war machine. They're putting their money into stocks and for these war companies to build more weapons. It's just continuing on. But sorry, I'm a little off topic here.
Because when you just jump over immediately and again, you
absolutely
use the
not.
Palestinian narrative.
You are incorrect.
They are responsible. Because I can tell you that when the UK,
absolutely
when Great
not.
Britain was fighting the Nazis during...
Sorry guys, we just can't listen to this anymore. But he doesn't want to, he's not giving any reasons. He's like, we're going to bomb and kill every civilian and cut their power because I don't care about civilians because their political leaders are our enemy, right? But again, there's civilians. I'm a civilian. If there's war was between my country and another country, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm a civilian. Let me ride my bicycle, get my exercise, have my food. I'm not the one making the decision. So these kids and everybody being slaughtered on both sides, and obviously Ukraine, the million Ukrainians, men and some women being killed because of the proxy war of the U.S. against Putin and Russia, all the refugees, etc. It's like the civilians are not the ones pulling the strings, yet they're the ones that die. Ernie Racing News, guys. October 14th, recording this, 2023. Let me know what you think in the comments, your opinions, and if you think some of this is correct or incorrect, let me know.